So, you've decided to jump in and need to know how to play. Oh, what is Shotgun King? For that, you might want to check out the other video first. So, in play, we're going to have two options available to us, Throne and Endless. Endless is kind of self-explanatory, while Throne is the one associated with story mode. If you're just jumping in for the first time, I'd start with Throne, as there are a couple different difficulty settings available there. Just to get us started off, we're going to talk about normal. While the core gameplay is the same, each difficulty setting makes a slight adjustment to how you start out, which has a direct effect on your gameplay and strategy throughout. As the board sets up, we find ourselves alone, opposite a number of opposing pieces. As you can see, the aim of your shotgun is going to follow the cursor, and as you change the distance of your aim, you can see the full range of what might be hit by your shotgun. Once we get to the edge of the range, it's going to start flashing, and finally go fully black for things that are completely out of range. For those not familiar with the movements of a king in chess, we can move one square per turn in any direction, and we can do so by left-clicking any of the arrows in an adjacent square around us on the board. Next is the operation of our shotgun, seen in the top left. The shotgun itself, the indicator to the left of the shotgun, shows how many shells we actually have loaded in the shotgun, which lets you know how many times you can fire before having to reload. Then below is our available ammunition. Don't worry, this isn't all we'll get. We can refill this as we go, but it does take time. Anytime you wish to fire the shotgun, left-click to fire. And to reload our shotgun, we can click the shotgun icon itself, which will reload from the shells we have available. Alternatively, if you move while your shotgun is not completely loaded, any available shells will load into the shotgun. If your shotgun is loaded, but you have less than the full complement of available shells, you will refill a single shell upon moving. Firing the shotgun once, loading shells, or refilling your reservoir are all actions that take at least a single turn. Although, while moving, it allows you to either reload at the same time or start to refill. If your shotgun is any less than completely loaded, any movement will automatically transfer available shells to the shotgun. This means if you have no shells in the shotgun and no shells available, you'll have to move to refill a shell and then move or click the shotgun to reload the shotgun before you're able to fire, meaning there's going to be a total of 3 turns to fire once you run out. If you're trying to reload 2 shells and don't have any shells available, that means it's actually going to take 4 turns to completely reload your shotgun. So if you're going to run out of ammunition, you're going to have to start planning your turns more carefully. You've probably also noticed, up here by the shells, are the folly shields. These shields will try and sacrificially stop you from either moving into check or ignoring a threat while you are already in check. Your folly shields will regenerate after each turn, so don't get too stressed if you use one when you weren't expecting it, which makes them a great tool for helping to learn the game. The number of folly shields available to you can be adjusted slightly in the options or the pause menu. You should be aware though, folly shields will not stop you from destroying a piece that was shielding you from a potential attacker. On the left-hand side of the screen are going to be the details of our shotgun. The power, which is the maximum collective total damage that can be done when we fire. Be aware, you won't always be doing this total damage when firing, subject to things like partially missing targets, or them being in an outside range and taking reduced damage. That brings us to our range, showing us both how far we can fire before our damage starts to drop off, and how far we can fire at maximum before doing no damage at all. Then underneath is our firing arc, expressed in number of degrees. This is how wide a spread our shotgun shot is going to fire. It's easiest to think of this as a cone, as the further you get away from yourself, the wider the spread is going to be. Not shown here is chance to knockback, which is 0 at the start of the game, but can be adjusted later. The 10 empty slots on our left and right show modifications to our king and the white pieces, which will increase as we progress through the various floors until we have the maximum of 10. Finally, to the right of the board is going to be where souls slots show up if available. A souls slot can be filled by destroying an enemy piece greater than a pawn. When the soul slot is populated with a card of a destroyed piece, you can expend that card to have a single turn with the movement style of that piece. Finally, we get to the opposing pieces, which for people who already know something about chess are going to be mostly familiar. If we hover our mouse over top of an enemy piece, you're going to see the name and icon of that piece. Underneath is going to be how many hearts or how much life that piece has remaining, followed by a display of how that piece can move and attack. Squares that the piece can attack are expressed in red, and if different, squares that the piece can move are expressed in the gray-blue tile color of the board. We're going to be coming back to this in a second, but one last thing that you should be aware of is that underneath this is the hourglass, which shows how many turns until that piece can move. Unlike conventional chess, where your opponent would only be making one move per turn, how many pieces move is going to be dictated by how many pieces are ready to move that turn. So your opponent may be moving several pieces all at once, and you should be aware of which ones move how. A piece that's ready to move on the next available turn will be shaking back and forth. The default movement for pawns is one square in front of them, but their attack pattern is either square diagonally in front of them. Knights move in a pattern of 2 squares horizontally or vertically, and land 1 square adjacent, which is where they attack. This is by far the least straightforward movement pattern of any of the basic pieces, and the knights have the added advantage of being the only piece capable of jumping over other pieces. Bishops can move and attack diagonally to any square that they're aligned with. Rooks or castles can move and attack horizontally or vertically to any square that they're aligned with. An enemy queen can move horizontally, vertically, or diagonally as many squares as she chooses and attack any of those squares. And the enemy king can move and attack to any adjacent available square. Each piece has a differing amount of health, with the enemy king typically having the most. You complete any given floor by eliminating the enemy king, meaning sometimes you can get away with ignoring a threat that has you in check if you can attack and eliminate the king that turn. Every time that you complete a floor, you'll be given 2 choices, each one containing a black card and a white card. The black cards can do things like enhance the ability of your shotgun, such as its range, power, or number of shells, grant conditional or limited use power-ups or items, or even add other features such as tossing enemies or throwing grenades. These will find their way into the field left of the board. On the right of the board, the white cards, enhancing your foes, perhaps in speed, health, or changing the dynamic of their movements as well. For each floor you clear, you'll be given yet another choice. And so as you ascend, your power increases, and so too does the strength and number of your foes. Your choice of cards is mostly random, except before the 4th floor will always contain this card that adds the queen to the field of battle. When choosing your cards, the number of strategies that you can formulate to climb to the top will vary depending on the cards that are available to you, and it's up to you to find and define synergies and strategies between these cards, as well as carefully monitoring what white cards are available to avoid the same for them. After you have a full complement of cards, you'll find yourself on the 12th and final floor. What happens there is up to you.